right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for being on. Today is June 6th. Oh my gosh, can't believe that. And we're going to talk today about the follow-up. But before that, I just want to take a minute and just review real quick. The Revive group started today, so hopefully you all are in it. If you're a leader, hopefully you're in it to support your downline. It's going really well. People are really active in it. I can't believe it. Hopefully. I think I had to turn my notifications off, so I'm going to have to put reminders on my phone to check into the group because there's so many people posting. It's a really active group, which is the whole point, so that's awesome. We have just another reminder. Where did my calendar go? I think I just misplaced it. I was looking at it earlier. We have the new coach training, I believe, starting on, I think it's I cannot believe I don't have my calendar right next to me. I'll come back to it.
Ma'am, I'm on a team call. Go in your room and I'll come in when I'm done.
Okay. So I think, sorry, I just muted you all. I do not have my calendar here. I think I brought it in the kitchen to look it over before we started, but
Jen.
Yeah, do you have it right there?
I'll look it up for you while you're talking.
Thank you. I can't believe that. But I know it's next week. It starts next week. And we will have our backstage next week too, which is going to be the live event. I believe I said that was Tuesday the 14th. So that's will be just like a 1 to 2 hour live event to get your people in. I will probably get that event open this weekend. I'm not going to do it before then. So start thinking about who you want to invite, coach potentials, awesome challengers that you have in your groups right now. Those are the type of people that would be a good fit for that. So that's then, and then just a few days later will be the coach training. I think I have it. I think it's Thursday the 16th, but don't quote me on that. Oh, yep, Lisa put it in there, June 16th. So be on the lookout for those things. And of course, it's going to be the same format unless someone has some spectacular idea. I do think that those videos are effective. They're short, they're quick. And really, if you're putting somebody in that group, make sure that you're added as well so that you can encourage them and they can tag you along in the process so you can see if they have questions that need to be answered. I just wanted to put a plug in for Summit because it is coming up for, I think most everyone who's on the call will be there, who's on the call live. I think that I was talking to somebody and how they were thinking like they probably would never make it, or someone who didn't see the value in it. But what I would say to that is people are watching you at all times. People, that you think aren't paying attention to what you're doing are. And if they see that some other their mutual friends are at this event and you're not, it might not, it's not all about appearance, but sometimes it shows that you're a professional and you're serious about it. And I do think even though you leave tired because you're just going the whole time, you also leave recharged in some form or fashion. You leave with, some new ideas and excitement about what you're doing. You get to hear from top coaches who they're fabulous. Their talks are always fabulous. And then, our motivational speakers are always fantastic as well. And then just the team time together, I think is huge. So, we're a whole year away from being able to plan for next year, but I really want you to have that in the back of the mind that, I remember when I started and Megan, when I was getting going and Megan was asking me questions about, what I was planning on doing for, the next 6 months or the next year. And she's like, well, you're going to be at Summit, so I'll see you there. And I remember being like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm not going to arrange to get somebody to watch my kids and I'm not going to spend the money to go. And she's like, well, if you're serious about this, you need to be there. So it's something I just felt, passionate about sharing with you all. If you're going to see pictures of us there, you're going to wish you were there if you weren't there. But start already thinking about next year, like thinking about, making it a priority to get there. So that's my little plug. Also, Spark Plug Award. If there's somebody that you've seen that's like igniting the team, go ahead and message me, and I'm just going to keep a little jar. I already have it set aside. I'm just going to put little slips of paper with their name and what the reason is, and I'll draw a name at the end of the month for the Spark Plug Award. So that's that. So today we are going to talk about the follow-up. Oh, the follow-up, the awkward follow-up. There are so many times that I get questions, specific questions from my coaches on my team or, coaches outside of my team with specific conversations from people like, what do I say now? I don't know. I don't really know. Do I write them back? I mean, that's probably the biggest type of question I get like throughout every month. Beth asks, how do I unblock my dark face? I'm not really sure, Beth. Someone wants to write back. You can. So I, first, before we jump into, what do I actually say and why and how, what I want to say is that when you are having conversations with people, and this whole call that I'm going to do, I want you to keep this in the back of your head, okay? Because some of it might get lost in the shuffle. You always need to be authentic. Always, always. You need to be you when you're having conversations with people. Scripts are fantastic. I don't love them because a lot of scripts wouldn't sound like it's me talking. So a lot of that copy and paste stuff, I do not do. There are some, sometimes where it's appropriate, to get a conversation started or something. But as you get deeper into a conversation and you're forming with a person, you using a script isn't necessarily effective. So when I'm going through this, I want you to remember that you always need to be authentic. You need to love people when you're having these conversations with them. You need to show that you care about them. And you need to be using personal messages. Okay. So you can't follow up with someone on your personal page just by putting a post up. So those are just 3 things I want to mention. One thing that needs to be, at the forefront of our minds as we're inviting people to coach or to challenge groups. There are so many missed opportunities that I can think back when I go back a year or two, even within the past couple months, where I've probably missed out on coaches, people becoming coaches, or people joining a challenge group because I didn't follow up. So, when you don't follow up, you're really missing out on, I think a whole slew of things. So that being said, in order to have a follow-up, you need to have a conversation, right? I have listened to multiple calls over the past few years from Lindsay Stay, Lindsay Matway, a lot of the most popular coaches out there, Michelle Myers, about how you can follow up. But one person that helped me a lot with getting the conversation going was Chelsea Pearson. And I'm going to go over some of the topics that she covered that were so fantastic. But she said, and she has a whole list of ideas of how you can start a conversation without actually going ahead and inviting someone. So I want to cover, how you get into a conversation with somebody before we get into what you actually do when you're following up with someone. So here are some ideas that she put out there that I think are fantastic. So how do we start a conversation? You see somebody, here's number 1. Someone puts up a status update. Hey, I got a new job. I'm so excited. Or someone says, I had someone recently write that she was being judged by people based off things that they didn't know. So that's like a more of a negative status update. Someone, talks about how they're just getting into a new hobby. That right there is an open door for you to open up a conversation with somebody. You're just being you and, getting to know the person. So, hey, congrats on your new job. That's so exciting. Are you doing something different? So that would be a number one, pretty easy thing, pretty easy way to get connected with someone. This one was really interesting. It stuck out to me. Number two, go to BuzzFeed.com, scroll through BuzzFeed.com, pick an article, and the first person that comes to mind when you see that article, you go ahead and you send it to them and say, hey, I just saw this, and you were the first person that popped into my head. So, I mean, some of them are funny, some of them are actually educational, some of them are, food related. There's all sorts of things on BuzzFeed. And that would be a way for you to start a conversation with somebody. Of course, it's authentic. My mom sends me stuff all the time. So, I mean, it's natural to send somebody something if it made you think of them. Number three, tell the truth. This one was interesting when she shared this. I was like, oh, I never even thought to do something like this to get to know somebody more. But be honest about something that you haven't shared with somebody in the past. So think about somebody in high school or college or who knows when. This was an example that stood out to me. I had a kid in youth group in high school who stood up. Someone was teasing me, and I remember him standing up for me, but just tell him thank you. Like something in the past that, really stood out for you. Or, I remember how kind you were to kids who were being bullied in high school, and it was just something that I had on my heart to share with you. So, I know it sounds silly and trivial, but people want to be encouraged and loved, and those little things, would stick out to them. Number four, be helpful. So keep a list of valuable things that you find on the internet, like articles, videos, websites. And when you know that somebody is in need of, how do I, you're dealing with separation anxiety with your child. So a lot of people will put calls out there on Facebook, like I am, exhausted. I need help with my child. So she said, stockpile a list of those type of things so that you can pull those things out and, personally message them to the person. It's basically, have you heard of the depositing into somebody's life? And these are just little deposits along the way. One that would be really awesome is if someone said, I am really struggling with organization and I can't get organized. Sending them the Chalene Johnson 30-day push would be an awesome example. Like this might help your life, to get things prioritized and keep organized. Number five, compliment someone and mean it. So if somebody updates their profile picture and you really like their hair, you send them a message and like, beautiful new profile picture. Where do you go to get your hair done? People don't hear stuff like that very often. I mean, how often we just don't take the time to do stuff like that. So I'm sure it would always be appreciated. This is number six, ask and listen. So be an ear when someone is struggling. Offer insights on, if someone's struggling financially, socially, with energy. You can offer all sorts of advice, but I think number one is make sure that you're listening to what they have to say. Number seven, this one was really, I remember her sharing about somebody who was on her team that she thought there would always be a rift between them, but she took the time to say she was sorry about something in the past. She grew as a person. She took the time to reach out to the person and said, I know that we went through some pretty big stuff a long time ago, but I just want to, take responsibility for that and apologize. It was a real conversation she had with the person, and it opened up these doors, and now she's a coach on their team. So I know it might sound like something maybe that you wouldn't necessarily, something that wouldn't pop in your head right away, but I can think of somebody on Megan's team who's something similar happened with them, and now she's one of her coaches. So yeah, I mean, you just never know. Take the time to apologize. Think about, a time where you felt like you did some didn't do right by somebody, and apologize. And number 8, be grateful for someone. Go ahead and say thank you for inspiring me. Thank you. Give specifics. You really inspired me when you shared about, getting up in the morning and, getting your workout in, or thank you for, liking my posts all the time. Just showing gratitude. I mean, in general, even if nothing ever comes of it, it's good for our souls to be thankful for different things. So those are just some ways where you might not have necessarily thought of how can I start a conversation, because sometimes we get so caught up in I need to go ahead and invite somebody when we forget to form. We don't take the time to actually form and really get to know people. So those are some maybe think outside of the box ways to open up conversations. So then comes a point where maybe something arises and it makes you think that it's appropriate to invite these people to a challenge group, and you go ahead or invite them to coach, and you go ahead and you invite them and you don't hear anything back. And then you're like, okay, do I just ignore the conversation? This is where I get a lot of messages from coaches on my team. This is how we ended, and I didn't hear anything, and I don't know what to say. So, number one, I think we need to remember that people aren't on Facebook like we are, and sometimes things get lost in the mix. They may have, had a child who needed their butts wiped, let's be honest, okay? Or they may have had a whole family sitting at dinner and they're in the middle of a conversation and they're getting dinner out on the table. So don't always take it personal if you don't hear right back, and don't give up on that conversation. So what we need to make sure, that we're doing is that we're actually taking the time to follow up. So I totally got going. I lost my place in my notes. There we go. Okay, so why do we follow up? There's multiple reasons. Number one, people sometimes don't trust us yet. They don't know what our motives are. So sometimes they might not want to answer right away, or they're not sure that they want to take the leap of faith and join a group or join as a coach. And sometimes they forget to answer, like I mentioned. And, sometimes they just need a couple times to be prompted to show they want to know that you actually really do care about them. How do we remember then all of these conversations that we have opened up? What made me feel really good, because I am a paper and pen girl. I like paper and pen. I don't think I'll ever use Streak. There are programs out there and there are people on our team who have very effectively used software or online planning calendars or automatic emailers or schedulers very well. I am not one of them. I need to be able to write with a pen and paper or pencil and paper in a notebook. I like to have my folders of past challenge group people, my folders of past 5-day people. I like to go back and revisit all of those. I keep them very organized. So I have a folder of just my 5-day people. I have a folder of Google Forms from my paid challenges. And then I also have just my planner running list of coaches that I've invited. So there are all different ways of tracking people and knowing, when you've, gone ahead and invited somebody. I'm a paper and pen girl. I know, Diana, you use Streak. Are you using Streak? Yeah. I think Lisa might be as well. And that works for some people. Great. So if you feel like you need something to keep it more organized, then go for it. It's obviously worked for me up to this point to use pen and paper, so I'm not going to be looking into changing that anytime soon. So, but there are different ways if you're feeling like, oh my goodness, I don't even know who and what and when and where. I talked to this last person. There are things like Streak, and Brooke Lipoff, I think that's how you say her last name, has an amazing YouTube whole series on how to use Streak. So if you're feeling like overwhelmed with life and you don't like the pen and paper thing, go ahead and check her out. I think we've shared that a couple times, even in the team pages. So check that out if you're needing to be more organized to know when to go ahead and follow up with people. But that is an option out there. Okay, so let me go to my list of the follow-ups. Okay. So after you've done your initial forming and you've invited to a group and you're feeling like, yeah, I nailed it, this person's totally going to jump on board, and then you don't hear anything from them. go ahead and, sorry, I'm going to catch, sorry, I totally misplaced my paper. I had it all written out. Sorry, girls. Oh my goodness. I'm a mess tonight. Okay. Okay, here we go. Sorry, found it. When you're after you've invited and you haven't heard, make sure that when you're ending a conversation with somebody, so you don't get in that awkward predicament of when am I going to follow up with this person, make sure that you have let that prospect know when you're going to follow up with them. So if you've invited and they're saying, I'm not really sure, or I want to go ahead and, talk to my husband about this. I think a lot of us hear that. I need to make sure that our finances are in order. And I want to chat with my husband about it, or I want to go ahead and check out the video that you sent me that gives me an idea of what the program is. Make sure that you say, okay, that's great. I totally understand. I had to look into my finances as well when I, took that leap of faith to join the group. How about I follow up with you in 2 days? Okay, so 2 days seems to be the magic number. I think when I've listened to trainings across the board, I think for me, that's when it starts to feel comfortable again. Like, it's been a couple days, I think I'm due to follow up with the person. So then that also kind of gives them a deadline or a little bit of pressure to go ahead and make sure that they, watch that video or look into it a little bit more about what they're getting, or, check on the ingredients of Shakeology if that's a concern. It kind of gives them that push, like, oh yeah, she's going to be writing me and I need to be ready for that. So yes, 2 to 3 days later, open up another conversation with them, or, continue with the conversation. You say, hope you're having a great day today. I just wanted to follow up with you. You actually can use the words follow up in it, and see if you had any opportunity to go ahead and watch the video or look into your finances or whatever that was that, was that area of hindrance. My challenge group is just around the corner and I don't want you to miss out. So it shows that you want them to be a part of this group. It was done in 2 to 3 days. You put that out there first for them so that they know that you're going to be writing. So that goes. It's the same for if you've invited a coach into a backstage pass, or there has to be some sort of deadline involved. So if you invited someone to a backstage pass and they said, I'm not really sure if it's for me, let me think on it. You say, okay, how about I follow up with you in a couple of days about that, and you could take some time to think about it, and here are some other things you could think about. And then with the backstage pass, you could say, I want to get you added. Or after the backstage, I'm so thankful that you joined the group. Not just what did you think about it, but, I would love to have you join our team. And we have this amazing new coach training starting on this date, which gives them, the date that there's a little bit of pressure involved. Can I follow up with you tomorrow since the new coach training starts on this date? So always putting those dates and those timelines in place is really, really important. Make sure that you're asking questions too along the way. I hope Sarah doesn't mind today, but she sent me kind of a message, a screenshot of a conversation she was having with somebody about, they're using some other shake I've never even heard of, but they're using a different shake. And she's like, well, I don't really think I'm interested in this. I like the taste of mine better. It was very cold and blunt answer from this person, which to me, when you get answers like that, it's mostly somebody's being defensive, and there's probably a reason behind that. So I think that the only way to get that, behind the defensiveness thing is to ask more questions, to figure out where they're coming from, why they're feeling, bitter about whatever, if they've had a bad experience in the past. Dig deeper with these questions, figure out what's going on in their life and why they might be frustrated. And then what I want to say is, after you've messaged them, the second time, and you haven't been able to, get in touch with them, I say, on the third time, that's it. You say, this is, I want to touch base with you one more time, and then, I'll leave it alone, but I just want to make sure that you weren't missing out. So it starts with the first question, then you're following up 2 days later, and then you go ahead and ask them that last time and just say, are there any questions I can answer? Or, is there anything else? And if not, I'll just kind of, let it pass at that point. But really, there are so many people who are probably missed out because we don't, give them that second invite or that second opportunity to ask a question. What I want to say is it should be done. I remember watching something with Megan Ebelson, and she said that all of her invites are done either over the phone. All of her follow-ups are done either over the phone or via voice messenger, so not typed. So she said that as soon as she was able to do that she saw a huge uptick in people saying yes. And that's because people can hear passion in your voice. They can get to know your personality. I think that there's something there that lends them to feel like they can trust you more when they can hear, just the inflection in your voice. I know it's something, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse when I say this because I talk about it all the time. But I feel like that's when things change for me too, is when I started using voice messenger. But that means you actually have to use voice messenger too. Like you actually have to do the inviting. So go ahead and make sure that you're using that as well. I thought I wrote down one specific instance, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, scenarios. Here's a specific scenario before I wrap it up. This one happens a lot, I know, with me. So this is why I wrote it down. I want to just touch on it. You have somebody so excited, right? And you're like, yeah, they're in, right? You're almost counting your chickens before they hatch. And you send them the link and they're going to order, and you're like, yeah, 2 points, it's done. And I'm going to get them in a group and they're going to kick butt because they've been amazing in my free group. And they never order. And you're like, okay, we talked about this. We even talked about the Shakeology flavor they're going to order, the benefits of it. And they never order. So what do you say in that instance? Because sometimes you're like, well, maybe they did order, but they had an account and we don't really know. But it doesn't need to be awkward. I think that we feel more awkward than it actually is. It makes us feel like, I'm bothering them. Whenever I've asked anyone, I've never had anyone be like, leave me alone. You've invested time in them at that point. They're willing to give you information, especially if they did order and it's going under someone else random. So what I typically say is, after 2 days and I'm not seeing it show up, unless they said, yes, I ordered, then we need to look into it. But I'm not seeing it show up and they haven't said anything. I'll say, I'm following up with you because I knew you were so excited about joining my group. And I'm not seeing your order show up in the back office, and I like to be able to track that for my customers. Was there, or did you change your mind, or did you decide against it? And that just opens up the door, and you're ending with a question there. So it's kind of rude if they don't answer. Make sure, I know that when I took education classes, they always said, end with a question so that it gets the kids thinking and it, prompts them to actually respond. Well, we need to end with a question too for stuff like that, so that it's not leaving like the conversation kind of at an end. So end with a question like, did you change your mind, or did something come up? And then a lot of times they'll just say, oh no, I did put my order in, and it probably went over underneath some Joe Schmo coach because they had some free account a long time ago. Or then you've asked a question and they can then answer it. So that's one specific scenario. I'm sure you all have a ton of them. I feel like I was jumbled because I had different calls I was listening to, but does anyone have any specific scenarios like that you've come across that you would like myself or one of the other leaders on the call, like how would we answer, how would we respond to that? Let me just say this too before I open it up. The big one that we get a lot is, I had it today, 2 hours ago, I had somebody write and say, what's the difference between Shakeology and Arbonne protein powder, or the Arbonne shake? because they have the link to order the challenge pack. So I'm like, okay, they're going to order. And then she brings that up. And right then and there, she's like, can you compare the ingredients? And I'm like, nope, I won't do that. But here are the ingredients to Shakeology. Feel free to go ahead and take a look at it. What I know is that Shakeology did this, this, and this for me as a person. And I love this, this, and this ingredient. And so I tout what I know is better about Shakeology, but I don't talk about the other. Arbonne's a great protein powder. I won't say, it's missing this and this and this and this, but I talk about, well, there's 70 superfoods in Shakeology and it's helped my digestive system because of the prebiotic and probiotic. So I go on and on about that. And that a lot of times, that's where our conversations get stuck because we're like so worried about comparing, can somebody tell me about isogenics? Like in our, we don't need to go down that route. We just need to know what's in ours. So, okay, sorry. I was kind of off topic, but kind of on topic. That comes up in a lot of conversations. So if anyone has specific scenarios of times when you feel like conversations have come to a stop, I'd be happy to, kind of give you my advice. Or questions about just the follow-up in general.
While you are all thinking, I'm with Jen. Like, I used to be very afraid of the follow-up. Like, if there was crickets, like, you just let them go. Like, it just went until somebody then reached back out to you for another 5-day. And I no longer do that. Yes, do I have to be creative often on how I am responding, especially if it was left with the question that somebody opted not to respond to. But I am definitely no longer fearful of the follow-up. So you will all get there too. You felt like you were nagged. Like, I totally felt that way, and I don't feel that way as much anymore.
Yeah, I remember when I listened to Megan Evilton's call a long time. I don't even remember when it was, but she's like, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. As soon as you're uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, you're golden. It doesn't feel as uncomfortable anymore.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not uncomfortable anymore with following up just because I do it same to everybody else. When they message me, I don't respond right away. And, you can see when somebody sees your message. So it's just life. Like, people get distracted. So, I followed up 1-3 times. And I've had a couple people say, thank you for not giving up on me. So you kind of have to know who you're talking to. Like tonight, I have an old high school friend that she said she was going to do it. I sent her the link, everything. And she didn't. And she hasn't responded like 3 times that I've messaged her. And then tonight I just put Kristen with a bunch of exclamation points. So she responded and told me what was going on. So I think it's just kind of like when you're talking to somebody, if you're a friend and you're just kind of bantering. So, and if they don't want it, I wait for them to say no. Like, if I don't hear a no, you're a big girl, you can say no.
Totally. I love that. We have to read social cues. Like we're people, we're friends to these people. We need to be able to read social cues. I remember Caleb Thomas said, no one goes off on my list until I've invited them like 3 times, or they said, basically, you're crazy and leave me alone. These people stay on my list. So, I think it's true. Why would we take people off of our list? Even if we just hear no once, why couldn't you revisit in the future? If someone might be in a totally different spot in 6 months than they are right now, maybe financially or just physically. So I don't remove people from my list. I don't think I've ever crossed anyone off. I've never had anyone say, leave me the heck alone, Jen McNeil. So.
Well, I think Diana just made a really good point that, like, when you're not providing codes right away, when you've created that, relationship and really decided for them or helped them decide what they need, you feel like you owe it to them to follow up because you they were excited about it. They had decided it wasn't just like, oh, they pressed like join the group and you sent them a code.
Right.
You really created this information. You made it meant for them. And so it's different. You have that relationship with them, so you don't feel guilty following up on that.
Yeah. Good points, girls. Anyone else?
I just tell people I'm their friendly plague. And I've had people say, thank you for not forgetting about me and for being a friendly plague. And they just have to deal with me until they tell me, no.
I've also had people like have not responded to my invite, and they've said join or whatever, and they will ignore my messages about the invites. But if I send them a message about something else, they'll respond, or they'll post things on my wall, or you know what I mean. It's like they're just scared to commit, and just have to keep bantering back and forth.
Oh, that actually reminds me that I am pretty guilty. If I think that somebody is avoiding the whole topic of a challenge pack, I often do try to create conversation related to something unrelated to Beachbody, like unrelated to the challenge pack, unrelated to something, because often in creating conversation related to something else, they are ones to initiate, like, oh, I totally forgot, or I had a death in the family or whatnot. I don't even have to bring it back up. They're willing to do it for me.
Yeah. Good points. Well, we are going to get cut off. So thanks for being on, girls. Hold on. Let me get everyone. Tony's on, Erin, Ariel, Kristen, Beth, Diana, Lisa. Who else? Is there anyone else? No? Got them all? All right, I'm going to do the drawing right now because I'm awful about getting things mailed out. So I'm going to do it right now, and I'll post it in Team Fitwell. Thanks for being on, girls. Have a good night.
And thank you.
Great call. Thanks, Jen.
You're welcome.